Euclid stores data on chemicals, and the Euclid comparison tool can help you to manage this data. From Euclid 6, version 7 onwards, the Euclid comparison tool supports the comparison of raw datasets, in addition to the existing comparison between dossiers and individual Euclid section documents. The ability to compare datasets permits a user to compare datasets of the following entity types: substances, mixture products, categories, as well as templates. The comparison of datasets, which is largely based on the comparison of dossiers, can help you to understand the content differences as well as the content similarities between two datasets. For this demonstration, I will show a couple of comparisons for mixtures and category entities, focusing on how the comparison works for datasets. Let's go to my mixtures list. I have 3 mixture datasets currently in my list. The comparison is especially helpful when you know 2 datasets have certain similarities or differences, and you want to quickly know where these similarities and differences are to be found. There are many scenarios where this feature may come in handy. In this case, I want to compare 2 SPC mixtures, or summary of product characteristics mixtures, which have an English base against a version I only just started for Finnish, and to see where the differences currently are. Let's go to my base. The first thing to note before launching the comparison is that as this is a dataset comparison and not a dossier comparison, the working context for the comparison will be the dataset from which you launch or trigger the comparison. The working context, to remind you, displays only those sections of the navigation tree which are relevant to that working context, and will use this data representation to make the comparison. Let's compare. I click on the 3 dots here, click Compare, and I get a list of the mixture datasets I can compare against. Note that the search facility is similar to the dossier comparison in the sense that you can search by UUID or, for instance, the name of the mixture. And to give an example, if I wish to only search for the second dataset, which is called my main mixture, I can put quotes around it, and it will do a literal search and only return this particular dataset. However, for this demonstration, I want to compare against my newest finished version of this mixture. I can also inspect further, if I wish, the mixture by clicking on this icon here. This will open up the mixture in a new tab in case I want to look at something before comparing. But let's compare by simply selecting the mixture to compare against. As with the dossier comparison, a HTML file is generated, which can be saved on my computer or, for instance, shared in a shared location. Let's open this up. So as with the dossier comparison, I get a source and target information. The source is where I triggered the comparison from, and the target is the mixture datasets I compared against. The first part is the dataset contents. In the dossier comparison, this would be dossier contents. So this gives me a high-level indication of what is identical or different between the 2 datasets. I can see that my draft dossier header and my mixture both have differences. So there is content to be seen here. However, for all other entities, linked substances, legal entities, reference substances, and sites, these are all identical. So I know there's no changes here to inspect. I can click on difference and I will be transported immediately to the next section. The next section compares in a more granular level the differences between the section documents of my mixture. I can see, for example, that the composition has differences. I can see that the use information has differences, and so on. Again, if I want to go to the next part of the report to see the actual content differences, I can click on the different if I wish, or I could simply scroll down and I go to the 3rd and final level of the report, which is field level content differences. Here I can actually see the actual differences between each dataset at a field level. For example, in my main mixture name, I can see my original name and my modified name. As you can see, in red is showing what has changed versus in green on the right, what has then been changed in the target. In the compositional information, I see that I've added a new country. Before I had Austria and Finland, but now I have Austria, Finland, and Sweden. I've changed the trade name of the product slightly, and I've changed the formulation type from a gel to a dispenser. If I scroll a bit further down, for instance, to the target organisms, I see that the developmental stage of the target pest has been changed from eggs to adults. And in the source mixed dataset from which I launched the comparison, I have target organisms that are not found in the target, which means that in the second dataset, or the target dataset, I have removed this information about target organisms. Note that as you are comparing datasets, which is live data in your Euclid instance, this may result in different behavior to the dossier comparison. For example, if you are comparing two datasets that reference the same entity and they share, for example, the same reference substance, as I show here, if you change the reference substance, then the comparison will not show any changes because the reference substance was changed for both datasets. So for instance, here's my original dataset. Here's the one I compared against. You can see that in both datasets I use the same reference substance. Essentially, the comparison for datasets works the same across all the different entities, substances, categories, and templates. But to highlight the feature a little bit more, let's look at categories. I have two categories currently in my Euclid instance. Let's open the first. And without looking at the content, let's just compare immediately with my other category I have. And we'll be able to see what the differences are immediately. Here I am in the dataset comparison report for the two category datasets I compared. On quick examination, I can see that most of the content is identical. However, there are some differences. I can see, for instance, in the target that a new substance has been added as a member. On top of this, I can see some new legal entities have been added. These have probably come as part of the new substance I added. However, as mentioned, most of the content seems identical. There is a clear difference in the category object, however. Let's click on difference to see what these are. So I can see in comparison that for the source category dataset, there were some regulatory purposes added, but in the target, these have been removed. I can also see in the category documents reference in the category object that there is a clear difference. On the left-hand side, there's toxicological endpoints listed. On the right, this seems mostly ecotoxicological endpoints. Furthermore, there has been some new information added in the category definition, description, and rationale as well in the target category dataset.